So, so Karen,
Yeah,
I understand that hypnosis is a worldwide phenomenon.
it is a worldwide phenomenon. It's an incredible phenomenon.
So much so that every time I look at you, I see something different around you, behind you.
Well, I'll point out that I too, Michael DeShalit, learned from Michael Watson all about Zoom and the green screen. And so I just thought every half hour I would do a form of costume change. Rather than changing my clothes, I would do a background change.
That's
And
that's
I
my
thought I would have it actually go more and more and more into the sunset as we went through the evening. But I decided for my segment, I wanted to be back in the balcony looking out at the ocean. So I thought you'd enjoy that with me.
that was my plan as well. But then I found myself wondering what I was wearing and would it work with this background and or that background. Uh,
I had a, I had a smoking client before I went on vacation.
oh my God,
Uh,
did you put it out?
what?
Did you put the fire out?
I did fire. I did put the fire out. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. He smoked. He actually smoked after the session. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
He did not smoke anymore after the session. So
did he smoke
so
less?
that day, unbeknownst, I hadn't thought about it. I had a teal and black striped shirt on, and we started ours. It was a Zoom session. He's a client in Washington D.C. and we started the session, and my shirt started. The background started, bouncing, and because it was a teal colored shirt, which was too close to the green on the green screen. So you have to learn. That's one thing we have to start teaching too: is be careful what you wear because it will disappear into your green screen. Or look
Become the invisible hypnotist.
Yes,
The
we can
hypnotist or the bodiless hypnotist or something.
we can use that in some ways. Everything, by the way, is hypnosis.
No.
So be careful with suggestions you deliver. As a matter of fact, Michael is working on a new plan of hypnotists should stop suggesting anything at all. Am I right?
You're right. Absolutely right. What the heck do they know?
Yes. But really, everything, anything can be hypnosis. I firmly believe that everything is communication, and all communication is a form of hypnosis. So beware what message you want to send. There was a question recently on one of the Facebook forums about, should I wear, I'm thinking of wearing scrubs with my clients. What do you think about that? Well, if the image that you want to portray is that you are part of the medical profession and you are doing some kind of work like that, then maybe scrubs is what you want to wear. But if that's not the image you want to get, or if that image is going to get you in trouble in Illinois, where I'm in Chicago, one of the laws about hypnosis in Illinois is we cannot present ourselves as part of the the therapeutic community. We can't present ourselves as counselors or therapists. We are hypnotists, and it's a different profession. And that would certainly fly in the face of that idea. You're giving a nonverbal suggestion with what you're wearing, with where you're sitting, with how you're conducting everything you're doing, with your advertising, with your website. So make sure that the impression that you want to that you are delivering is the impression that you want to deliver. I certainly don't want to think, I don't want my clients to think I'm a doctor or have anything to do with the medical profession. They're coming to me for an alternative solution, an alternate solution, not the drug and medical solution that they had gone to a doctor for. Right. So you want to make sure that you're giving those messages, that you're actually delivering the messages that you are delivering, meaning the messages that you are delivering.
Nice. The
words that you say, the choice of words, the tonality, all of that can be hypnosis. And it's different for everybody. I fully believe that hypnosis, and I agree with Jason Linett on this, that hypnosis is a state of receptivity. We like to call it a state of suggestibility often, but it's really a state of receptivity because I can do all the suggestions I wanted. And as a matter of fact, isn't everybody a hypnotist? I mean, our parents were hypnotists. They were giving us suggestions all the time or telling us what to do, and we acted on it or we didn't act on it. Our teachers were hypnotists. We acted on it or we didn't act on it. We got along or we didn't. Our friends were. If you go over to a friend's house and they say, you know what, I'm going to step out for a minute. Would you answer my phone while I'm gone? That's a suggestion, is it not? It's a request and a suggestion. And they walk out. They don't really care if you sit there in their house and the whole time they're gone, you think, wow, if that phone rings, I got to answer it. I got to answer that phone if it rings. If the phone rings, I've got to answer it. Or if you go on and do a Sudoku puzzle and when the phone rings, you go, oh, I'm supposed to answer that. It doesn't matter which way you receive or act out the post-hypnotic suggestion. But as soon as the phone rings, if you remember and you answer it, you have followed their suggestion, have you not? Now, that wasn't a trained hypnotist who leveled that suggestion, but let's get real here. All we do is make suggestions. Mm-hmm. What we do is suggest a course of action. And if we're really good at what we do, we've heard our clients. We know where our clients are, we know where our clients want to go, and we use the technique that's best going to help them get there. That's what we do. We listen to them.
I know some hypnotists that are very suggestive, as a matter of fact.
Yes, and suggestible. I am one of those very suggestible, by the way. But that's what we do. And to me, the real, I guess, talent or art of what we do is listening to our clients, finding out where they are and where they want to go. And then we want to know what's stopping them. We want to know what's getting in the way. And then we help them work out a strategy to get to where they want to go, to change those limiting beliefs, to maneuver around it. But if we listen properly, we have everything we need to know to help them get to where they want to go. But that is really the crux of it, listening and hearing. And looking for what their metaphors are, what their limits are, what their thinking is. We have to know what they're thinking about something in order to help them think, to change the way that they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's really what it's all about, in my mind.
Lovely. I understand that there's a certain Queen front singer that is.
Yes. Yes. Did you have a question about my heartthrob Adam Lambert?
Well, I was wondering what that was. I thought it was such a lovely example when I heard it from you.
So I wrote an article, actually, when I got my board certification from the National Guild of Hypnotists. The article I wrote to get the board certification was about Adam Lambert hypnotized me. Adam Lambert was an American Idol winner years ago. And so I wrote the whole article about Adam Lambert hypnotized me. Now, Adam Lambert doesn't know that he's a hypnotist. He has no clue. But I was in that heightened state of receptivity.
I think he knows.
Maybe he knows. Maybe he knows. And maybe he's really, really good at it. But I was in the heightened state of suggestibility, receptivity, heightened state of receptivity. I was getting close to 50 when I went to his first concert to see him. It was a standing room only concert. It was at I crossed state lines. It was at a casino in Indiana. And it was general admission. So I stood in line for, I believe, 5 hours on 4-inch heels. I was decked out. I had a boa. I was going for the Glam Nation tour. I stood in line all that time to wait to get in. They finally opened the doors. And actually, my husband went to that concert with me, not because he's that big an Adam Lambert fan, but he was accompanying me. And he played at the casino until they opened the doors. I texted him when they opened the doors. He didn't stand in line with me, of course. But we went in and had to stand for another hour because it was standing room only. And I got right up on the stage. We stood for another hour before the show even started. Then there was an opening act. And then there was 45 minutes before Adam actually took the stage. And by the time it was time for him to sing, can you imagine what my feet felt like on those heels? I was too old to be dressed like that. That was the day I realized that. But my feet were killing me. And I looked to my husband and I said, my feet are just killing me. I'm miserable. Adam Lambert took the stage and I was dancing and jumping around and I didn't know anything about pain in my feet at that moment. And then there was a costume change. Adam left the stage and his dancers came on and they were dancing around and I turned to my husband and I said, oh my God, I didn't even realize, my feet didn't hurt the whole time, but now they're killing me again. Adam came back to the stage again. There was no pain. I was having a blast. And as soon as the concert was over, I again said to my husband, oh my God, I don't even know if I can walk to the car. My feet hurt so bad. We got to the car, and I realized at that moment that the entire time that I had my attention directed elsewhere and was having all this great time, I felt no pain. So he hypnotized me out of my pain first. But then in the car, I said to my husband, you know, when those dancers came on stage, I felt it all over again. And my husband said, what do you mean when they came on stage? They had dancers on there the whole time. And I said, no, you know, he just had that costume change, and there were the dancers that came on, and that's when I felt the pain again. And he said, well, there were dancers with him for the entire show. And he took some videos with my iPhone, and he said, look, and I looked, and sure enough, while he was on the stage, there were dancers gyrating up against him and all over the place. Negative hallucination. I never saw those dancers. The whole time I was watching him on stage, I completely negatively hallucinated the dancers. They weren't even there. I only had my attention on him. So would you call that hypnosis?
I would say Adam Lambert is an anesthesiologist, and we never knew it.
I would say all of that is hypnosis that I did for myself. But then I go a step further and say all of the hypnosis that we do is what our clients are processing on their own anyway. I don't believe that I'm a wizard. I don't believe that I'm a magician. I don't believe that I can make people do things that they don't want to do. I do firmly believe that I develop rapport with my clients, that I listen carefully, that I help them make change, but I help them do the processing they need to do to make the changes they need to make. And I'm guiding them, I'm helping them, moving them in the direction of making the changes they're making. But they're the ones who have to make the changes. They're the ones who have to do it in their minds. And that's where I come in. I help them do that.
Well, I do believe that you are a wizard and a musician. I mean, a magician. There you go. But just curiously, what I really like about the Adam Lambert story, and the reason that I asked about it, is that not only can everything be hypnosis, there are so many naturally occurring things that we experience all the time that folks just don't think of as hypnosis. And I'm hard pressed, quite frankly, to figure out what isn't hypnosis, which is why I like the fact that you use the word everything.
Right.
And when hypnotists talk about depth of trance and and these things, and this is a part of our industry and a real common way of speaking about hypnosis, I prefer to think about it in terms of the degree of engagement. So there are things. There's the Stephen King movie Trance. There are the roller coaster rides. Anything but the usual relaxing things. But those experiences that when you're in them, there is no other game in town.
Right. Yeah.
And that's my sense of the Adam Lambert story is that the experience itself was so compelling that it takes all of your circuitry.
And think about all of the hypnotic properties that were there. There was the anticipation. I bought tickets. That was my compliance, right? I bought tickets. I waited. I anticipated a great show. I stood in line. I think there was a question on Richard Nongard on his Facebook site the other day posted a question, are movies hypnosis? And I think movies can certainly be a hypnotist of sorts.
Nice.
And all of the properties exist, right? You look at something, you see a trailer, you hear somebody talk about it, you hear about it. And then you make a decision, I'm going to go see this movie. You make the decision, I'm going to go see it. That's the beginning.
Right.
Then you buy the tickets on Fandango, or you go to the theater and you buy it, and that's your compliance. You're agreeing to go in and stay for this movie. You walk in, you give your ticket to the ticket taker, then you walk down this long hallway with lights and posters and a marquee, and it's very ritualistic. Is it not as if you're walking into a church or walking down those sleep temples and the Greek sleep temples? You're going through the same ritualistic process every time. That's building up your anticipation. You buy the popcorn or do whatever you do. You sit in the movie theater. You sit in your seat. You pick your seat. You sit there, and you begin to settle in and relax and get comfortable. And you anticipate and you wait. And suddenly the lights go out and the movie starts. And if the movie captures your attention, you're already in that heightened state of receptivity. If the movie captures your attention, you go right with it. If the movie doesn't, well, then you have the same right as anybody who sits in your recliner in your office. You can reject the suggestions. You can reject the movie and say, no, I'm not into this, and not pay attention, and not be able to forget that there's a director and an audio guy and a sound guy and all of the technicians that are there. Or you can be completely receptive and captive to it, and 2 hours go by like nothing. And you have your time distortion, and then you walk away. And you can even have a post-hypnotic suggestion. Let's say you're watching Star Wars, and 2 days later you're in a store and you see a Star Wars action figure, and that brings you right back to, oh, I loved that scene. You're going right back into where you were before, so you've got some regression going on, and you've got a lot of these properties going on, and that's from a movie.
Yeah.
It's on the screen.
And during the movie, you know, the movie can lull you into a nice, pleasant, relaxed trance, or, you know, it can be those movies that I guess some people wouldn't think that this is hypnosis at all, but there are those movies that keep you on the edge of your seat the whole time. The ones where suddenly an hour and a half into the film, you look down to the bottom of the popcorn box and you wonder who the hell ate all of this popcorn.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Because it certainly wasn't me, right?
Let me throw that back on you. Then is the movie hypnosis?
The experience certainly is.
Yes, or hypnotic. And in one way or the other, because we all, whether we're sitting with a hypnotist or sitting with our best friend or with our parents, we always, as the recipient, have the right to accept or reject whatever's in front of us. We can't make somebody accept one of our suggestions. That's why in certification schools, we're often taught to be careful how you phrase your suggestions, to give, you know, positive suggestions, et cetera, et cetera. What we really want to do is go along with if we've listened to our clients and we followed what they told us, we want to give them suggestions or move things along or tell stories that will move the process along so that they will make the changes that they desire. I'll be quite honest with you. When I work with a client, I would say the change is made before they ever get to the recliner. We're doing all the work there in wide awake hypnosis. We're doing NLP techniques, and we're doing stories, and we're doing checking in, and the change is made before they ever step over to the change chair, the recliner. That is more, I mean, while that is important and it solidifies it, that is more for me a way to allow them to to hang it on something that is not just the conversation we had. I don't want them walking out of my office and saying, oh God, we just had we just talked. I don't know how that's going to work. I want them to make their change. We'll do the hypnosis, and then when they walk out, they can say, wow, that hypnosis really works. That was so powerful.
So
I'm sorry.
It's pushing over the dominoes.
Yes. Yes, basically. And you know, I have a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists who refer to me, and I want my clients to go there and tell them, oh, that hypnosis was fabulous. So they can say, that was the right decision sending you there. Rather than have them walk out and go, I don't really know what she did. We just talked for a while, and you know, I didn't feel like smoking anymore. Well, that's not going to give the psychologist or psychiatrist much information to go on. So that's what they do anyway. They sit there and talk with them. So we do our talk, we do our change work, we do our NLP works. I play with the language. They make their change, and then we solidify it. They're in the hypnosis chair so they can have what they walked in expecting the hypnosis process to be like. They get that, and then when they walk out, they can say, wow, that's great. Wow, that's great. Yeah. And it gives them something, their conscious mind, something to hang it on. I also don't believe, I'd like to have their conscious mind involved. I don't shut their conscious mind out. Hey, nice crowd, Michael. Thank you for bringing more people.
You're welcome. Bye.
I like the conscious mind to be on board. It was their conscious mind that called me in the first place. So I like their conscious mind to be on board with what they're doing. I don't want to shut it out.
Lovely. Lovely. So I'm wondering, just by the way, this might be a good time if you're open to it, for us to invite some comments or discussion. If anybody has anything, would you be interested in hearing some questions?
Absolutely, please.
So y'all, as you know, your microphones are muted, but you can unmute them down at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So if you have a question or some comment that you'd like to make around this topic of everything is hypnosis, that'd be great. We'd love to hear from you.
If somebody knows something that is not hypnosis, I'd like you to click in and tell me that.
Yes.
Patricia, what's on your mind?
Oh, I was looking for the little raise your hand thing and I couldn't find it. Well, I'll just go like this.
So that was hypnosis right there, wasn't it?
There you go.
Yeah, she hypnotized me and I can't remember what I was going to ask now. Oh, I know what I was going to ask, because I really like what you said about engaging the conscious mind, because when I started, I kind of felt like a lot of my teachers were saying, knock them out and do suggestions, and I said, well, they got to go along with it on the conscious level too. So, and I'm just curious, can you clarify, because some people listening may not be hypnotists or maybe, newbies. Does that mean that you, should I interpret that as meaning you keep them at a lighter level, or can you explain a little more about what you meant by engaging their conscious mind as well?
Okay, so depth level, I understand depth testing, right? I get it, I teach it. I don't put much credence in depth testing because all throughout my day, I react to things at various levels of trance. I happen to be a believer that I am always in trance of some sort. When I'm on a date with my husband, I'm in the husband date trance. And when I'm with my daughter, I'm in the daughter trance. And when I'm with a client, I'm in the client trance. And when Michael and I are Zooming just with each other and just having a good time, I'm in the Zoom with a friend trance. But nobody tells me, or I don't have to remind myself to go in and out of that or how to act in that situation. I just move over into that trance. And so when I'm eating mindlessly, I am in the mindless eating trance, but it's just another state or another automatic trance that I'm in. So I do believe that I go in and out of trance states all the time. And I believe that some of my trance states are so ingrained that if somebody cuts me off in traffic, until I taught myself not to, I automatically went into the flip off trance state. And they yell at them at the top of my lungs trance state, right? Until I started realizing that I could instead say, I'm right in line with the universe, because if I hadn't been so alert, that would have been a wreck. And then I give myself credit and say, you're so alert, that worked your heart so much, you don't have to do aerobics today. Say hallelujah. Or something like that. But we're always in and out of those trance states all the time. And trance states are in various levels at all times. I do not believe, and anybody here can argue with me, I don't care. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is just what I believe, all right? I believe that we always act and behave as if our beliefs are real. And so my belief is that we're always in that kind of trance state, and that it doesn't matter how they test it on a depth scale. 2 words later, they can come up. They can come out of it. So just because they test at a 5 on the Harry Aaron scale doesn't mean they're going to stay there until I snap my fingers and say, come back out. They're going to go in and out with things they hear and things they experience and things they feel. And if the room gets cold, they're going to perhaps get cold, and that's going to change things. So in other words, our depth states change all the time. So my job is to work with my client and monitor my client. I also don't just I don't read scripts to my clients, so it's interactive hypnosis mostly. So I'm talking to them, and if I ask them a question and they don't answer, I'm going to assume they went too deep. You know what happens when you assume, but I'm going to assume they went too deep, and I'm going to say something like, come up just enough so that you can comfortably talk to me and stay in hypnosis. And they do it every time. Okay, so I know they're hearing me. I know that we're interacting. My job is to watch them. My job is to be with them. My job is to maintain the rapport, and my job is to help them get to where they need to be. Help their beliefs move to something that they can believe in and then act on accordingly. Did that answer your question, Patricia?
I think so.
You know, sometimes
it was more about, as far as working with your clients. I was curious, what does that mean that you're incorporating, that you're engaging their conscious mind as well?
Okay, so the first part of my sessions are always wide awake, sitting in a chair, and we talk, and we do some NLP techniques, and we do some other things. We try a number of different things until I see an aha moment, until we have an aha moment or there is a change, and then we move from there. Okay, so at some point, then we move to the recliner and do a formal hypnosis. And there are clients where we just flat run out of time for that, and they'll come back another time, or they will be changed, or you know, things happen in sessions. Not every session is the same. I don't ever expect a session or a client to be the same as any other. I have tried, Patricia, many systems. I love systems. And I really kind of glom on to the person who says, this is the thing that's going to work every time. And if you do this particular thing every time, you're going to have success every time. Boy, I buy into that hook, line, and sinker, and I try it until I have my first fail.
Which is on your second time.
Well, you know, you never know. But I'm just saying, I've learned over the years that there is no one thing that works for everybody. So if you go in with the idea to do a system and it's going to work for everybody, you're going to have... My first business was a franchise business. I didn't know anything about business, so I bought into a franchise hypnosis business. And it was fine. It worked, just reading scripts. The same script in order for every client worked perfectly for about 80% of the clients. 80%. It was mostly weight loss and smoking, and 80% of them lost weight or quit smoking. But I worried about the 20% who didn't. And I had to go get new training to find out how to work with that 20%. And then I'd learn something new, and I'd try that system because it worked every time on everybody. And it took, I was a little slow on the uptake. It took me about 5 or 6 times before I actually recognized that there is nothing that works every time on everybody. And then I want to point out, I took a class with Jason Linett, and in that class, he said, now, this is great. Do this with everything else that you already know. Bring the other stuff that you know into this too, right? And I went, whoa, mind blown. Yes, there's not just one thing. We should learn a lot of stuff. And then we should have a whole bag of tricks. And my new metaphor became, I could probably build a house with just a hammer and nails, but boy, would it take a long time. And if I had a full toolkit with power tools and a level and a ladder and a drill and saw, I could build a castle. So I went out and started adding to my toolkit. And now I find that every single client that comes into my house, that comes into my office, or that I see online, is a puzzle. And I just put the pieces together. They come with a puzzle, and I start arranging them with the corner pieces and then the slide pieces and then putting the colors together. And together, we put that puzzle together in a different way, in a way that makes their life more what they want their life to be. But it's every single client is different. And every single client, even if I'm doing Sheila Granger's, that I learned from Jason Linett, by the way, even if I do Sheila Granger's VGB program, I don't do it the same way with every client. The first session might be the virtual gastric band protocol, but after that, it's up for grabs because it depends on what the client comes back with. They don't all respond in the same way. So the more you know, that's why I will never stop learning. I will never stop going to conferences. I will never stop taking new classes. I take classes from all sorts of people I know and people I don't know, just to find out. And with almost every class I've ever took, I've walked away with at least one little thing that I can use, that I can incorporate, that I can take away and use the next time.
Karen, you're awesome too. Mind if I share a quick comment on that?
Please.
Yeah, the idea of the question earlier, or even the response to it, was getting into depth scales. That I tend to be someone that like Karen uses a lot of hypnotic convincers, a lot of conviction work inside of what I do. And it's where to look at these different models, kind of like a system, the same idea that this is a model, it's not the only model. Yes. So there may be a specific moment to say, okay, here is this specific scale, and in this scenario, this serves me. But quite honestly, as someone who uses it in every session that I do, I'm looking for, like what Karen said, what is that hypnotic state that they're already in? And the phenomenon, the magical moments are there to basically, let me use my favorite infomercial line, show them that there's got to be a better way. So to break one reality by throwing in something hypnotic in nature, and then whatever comes next now is much stronger. So it's just that willingness to play in the process and see what happens. Yes. But if you don't do it that way, it won't work, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a dance.
See what I did there?
It's always a dance. I always get to lead until they learn the steps, and then they take over the dance. And that's the goal. I lead, they follow my steps until they learn the steps, and then they take over. And with their conscious mind, Patricia, I just want to say, often, before we go to the formal hypnosis chair, I stick their fingers together. I use that little stage hypnosis trick, and we do a magnets at the tips of their fingers, right? And so with their eyes wide open, I just ask them, because here, this is hypnosis. I say, let's play a game. You want to play a game real quick? Put your hands together like this. Since I called it a game, they're not thinking they're going to be hypnotized. So it gets rid of a lot of that resistance. So I ask about the game. We do the whole thing. I stick their fingers together. And then when they say, wow, that was weird, I get to say, and we now both know that you can be hypnotized because your eyes were wide open. You heard every single word I said, and you don't really have magnets at the tips of your fingers, do you? But you took that suggestion and it was real for you. And that's how hypnosis works. So that's what I'm talking about. They were fully conscious, and now they can, if they hear everything, if they don't hear everything, Jason's going to be up here in a minute, and maybe we'll get him to talk about his all positive pre-talk, because I also do that, so that we take away all of the negatives and just go for what we want them to experience.
We got another hour for Jason, so I hope you're not panicking him.
Stick around, because
it's all about suspense.
I'll make him talk about that all positive pre-talk, and it's worth it. Stick around for an hour for it, or come back in an hour, as the case may be.
Well, Karen, I just want to say there's a comment here. If people didn't see it in the chat, Miriam says Karen's sessions are very clarifying, and her listening strategies with NLP are eye-opening. Eye-opening listening strategies.
Thank you, Miriam.
And I'm wondering if you were talking about classes for a minute. Do you got anything coming up that you want to share with us? Or
I do. I have a National Guild of Hypnotists NGH certification coming up in April in Chicago. It's all the weekends, not the first weekend in April because that's Easter, but all the weekends after that. And graduation is May 6th. I believe it's all the weekends in April. I am working on my second book. I have my first book, Magic Words and Language Patterns. It's out and available on Amazon. And I will be doing workshops in a full day at the IACT IMDHA conference in Daytona Beach. I'll be teaching at Hypno Thoughts in August, and I haven't heard yet from NGH. So we'll see what happens with that.
All right. Lovely.
You can reach me at KarenHand.com. Or you can email me at Karen@KarenHand.com.
All right. And you can be sure that we will. So ladies and gentlemen, I thought I'd point out to you, operators are standing by. We are 2 hours into our telethon here on World Hypnotism Day. So if you want to help a starving hypnotist somewhere, be sure to call in. The number is 1-800-888-8888. Or no, I'm sorry. The number is 1098-765-432-1. So
join us every second Tuesday of the month for the IACT IMDHA virtual chapter meeting. Second Tuesday of every month.
Tuesday of every month. And by the way, this month, beginning in January, we've changed our format, and the virtual chapter will be an hour and a half long. we were struggling to get people through in about 45 minutes, and there were just so much more. It was obvious after a while that we needed a little more time. So on Tuesday, the second Tuesday in what the hell month is coming up? February, I believe, is it is January still.
January, yeah, January.
The 9th, I believe, is correct.
January 9th, I believe it's
Right.
correct, yes.
If you will log in, this same telephone number that you used tonight, or the same login link that you used tonight will work. If you'll log in at about 8:15 or so, say hi. We start properly at 8:30. This is East Coast time, and we finish at 10 o'clock. And our guest is going to be Paul Orand, who will talk to us about near-death experiences and that he does with that in therapy. So do be there. I think it's going to be quite exciting. So with that said, again, thank you for sharing with us, Karen. And of course, as my co-host, I don't need to tell you to stick around because I know you're going to.
I'll be here. We got lots of great people coming up. Are you kidding me? We still will be hearing from Jason Lynette, of course, Shelley Stockwell-Nicholas, Andrea Wood, Michael Watson's going to be talking to us in a little bit. He's going to do his Tibetan star process. If you haven't seen that, oh my gosh. Patricia Scott, Jess Marion, lots of people coming up.
Jess Marion in a bit, and Patricia Scott, as a matter of fact, next.
Yes.
We've just seen her in a few questions, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you. So